This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with today's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is... Ahsoka Season 2. Wait a minute, we're not
It's not Season 2.
God damn it, second half of Season 1.
There you go.
It's because I was just watching something a minute ago where they're like, originally people were thinking this was just going to be a one-part series or a one-season thing, but apparently it's going to be multiple seasons.
Well, they're talking about a movie too. I mean, I haven't done like real research on it, but I believe they're coming out with a movie.
Oh, really? I did not know that. Like an Ahsoka movie?
Well, more of a Thrawn movie.
Oh. I could see that. I was picturing more of like a Thrawn TV series, but a movie might make more sense.
Which, on one hand, yes, absolutely. Thrawn is by far, aside from Vader, he is by far my favorite Star Wars villain, hands down. But we already know where it's going to go. You know, it's like they had the sequel trilogy that came out that takes place after all this. So obviously the Empire grows enough to be a threat again, and obviously
Thrawn's not there along the way. Yeah, because apparently somewhere along the way he's just gone.
Yeah, and I mean he is killed in the last book of the trilogy of the book trilogy, but the guy who killed him isn't around. So it was his close bodyguard, Rook or something. He had a really close bodyguard who was with him the entire time, and then in the last of the book, Rook betrays him and stabs him in the heart and kills him.
Oh.
And so that's obviously not going to happen now, because Rook did appear in the Rebels series. I still haven't watched the rest of it. I just kind of like watched Thrawn specific stuff, but he appeared, but I don't know what happened to him. But obviously he's not around Thrawn. So
yeah. Well, I mean, they already did show up or bring in the fact that cloning happens in this world, so they could just clone him and bring him back now. Woo!
Which was another...
Thrawn could come back to the current galaxy and be like, hey, I miss my old assistant. Bring him back, but slightly lobotomized so he doesn't attack me.
Well, the reason why he attacked him was, like, it was spread throughout the books. Apparently what happened in Rook is that, like, he was an alien that was tricked by the Empire. Vader came down and kind of made them his own personal, basically ninjas. They were ninjas, assassins, and spies, is what he made these people. And they looked at him as a god, and
later they're surprised to find out the evil-looking dude was evil.
yeah, Luke and Leia came down and like, oh, they worshipped them because they were the son of Vader, and they're like, no, we're not really bad. We're not like that. You know, Vader wasn't a god. And they go, oh, wait, and then once it spreads throughout their culture that the Empire was using them, then that's what made the whole turn. So it wasn't just like Rook was like, no, I don't like this anymore, stab. It was
just randomly. He's like, you know what? You deny my vacation request, boss. You're going to get a sword to the back.
One too many times. I will tell you this, though. As evil as Thrawn is, I promise you this, he would never deny a vacation time.
As long as you had a good reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, he was actually, that's one of the things about that made him so dangerous, was because Thrawn was fair. He was harsh. He was evil and harsh, but he was also a great leader. That was one of the reasons. That's the big kind of twist. Not twist. That's one of the things about Thrawn that made him so terrifying. It was a great...
People wanted to serve him. He wasn't running a bunch of slaves around or anything. It was like, hey, as we noticed in the final episode, when people were like, hey, sure, we'll volunteer to be turned into zombies at the end.
Yeah, which I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. This is also just me. I literally can't think of any scenario which I would voluntarily allow myself to die. Or if not die, like they even if they had gone down there and won against Ahsoka, the idea was like, you're staying here. Dead or alive, you're not leaving this planet. And so,
for the greater good, man.
Yeah.
You gotta give yourself up for the greater good. And that's what Thrawn's good at, is convincing people that they need to give themselves up for the greater good.
Well, the story's going to tell you real quick. This is one of my favorite stories about Thrawn. So there was earlier on in the series, they were trying to do a tractor beam and try to grab someone for tractor beam, and he failed. Like, the guy screwed up and got away. Thrawn came over, talked to the guy, and had him killed. He killed of course, just like Vader would have. He killed the guy, or had Rook kill him, and then he told the guy, to his supervisor, you need to train a new one. Fast forward a little while later, it might even been the same book or maybe the second book. Something else happens where they capture Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker, again, tractor beams issue, and he gets away. Well, Thrawn comes the guy, and everyone's expecting, well, this guy's dead. It's over. But Thrawn actually holds a conversation with them, and the guy explains, look, this isn't my fault. Here it is. And this guy was actually, he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing, and the Luke just took advantage of an issue with the systems that allowed him to get away. So it really wasn't that guy's fault. He did the best he could.
Yeah.
And Thrawn listened to explanation, and then he promoted him. He's like, no, you're absolutely right. Because the guy was quoting like books that he had read about how this works.
Yeah, there's a bug in the system that you can exploit if you know how to do this.
And so Thrawn talked to this guy, and he through this conversation, understood this wasn't this dude's fault. He's actually really good. And so he promoted him and had him train his replacement just like he would. So, was it his number one, which is Pelion, who has appeared in he appeared in Mandalorian. But Admiral Pelion, who is the right hand of Thrawn, he throughout the whole book series. So if he doesn't show up with Thrawn in the upcoming movie and series or whatever he shows up in, that's going to be a lot of people would really be upset. Yeah. But Pelion,
well, said they already showed him in that one. In that little episode where he's like a little hologram.
Yes, yeah. So he showed up. He absolutely showed up. But we're still waiting to see if he actually joins Thrawn, which he's gonna.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no way they won't,
unless the actor dies or something like that.
Well, even if the actor dies, they're gonna replace him. There's no way they don't have Pelion on there. Yeah, I mean, because the actor who played him. It wasn't like, oh, this guy who's well known for playing Pelion. It's just like, it's a guy who looks kind of like Pelion. And even then, it was in a hologram. So
half hour of makeup, and you would never know the difference between him and somebody else.
Or not even half hour of makeup. I mean, honestly, can you bring up to mind what the guy looked like? I mean, all I know is he looked vaguely like he's supposed to. Yeah, because they set the way he looks in the book series. And I mean, Pelion actually
gnomish, if I recall.
Well, and he actually is a huge deal going further on in the books because he survives Thrawn going down, but he also survives all of it. Like even to the Legacy series, where the Empire is still just now they're not what they used to be, but they're like a known like kind of the Klingons and Star Trek. You have the Republic, and then over there you have the Remnant Empire that's still there. They're still running things, but they're just not as big as they used to be. And one of the main people running the Empire was Pelion, and he didn't die until one of the later arcs before they killed the whole thing, where I think Luke's grandson. No, not Luke's grandson. Luke's what is he? Sister's nephew. Luke's nephew. I'm blanking on his name. I'm sure someone listening would be like screaming at the No, not Ben Solo was actually Ben Solo didn't exist in the books. Because there was a Ben, but that was Luke's son. It was Luke and Mara Jade. Mara Jade. She has not been introduced in the series.
But Mary Jane instead.
Yeah, she looks like Mary Jane. Honestly, she had from Spider-Man. She had red hair.
I was gonna say, yeah, she's big and green and bushy and has some like flowers coming off of her head. That's Mary Jane I was thinking of.
So yeah. I mean, I would really love they bring Mary Jane into it, but they're not gonna because she.
Then you'd have to bring in Spider-Man and everything would just get convoluted. Right. Yeah, right.
So anyway, back to Ahsoka. I'm really looking forward to see what they do with Thrawn. I really do love Thrawn. I kind of wish that I'm not sure how I really liked how they ended it, like stranding. Basically, Ahsoka and her crew, and then also the two baddies on the planet. I mean, I'm sure they can get away from it, and they're hinting at Abeloth, who's this big, kind of a force witch, evil force god thing from the books. Also, they hinted at her in the. Not the
you think that's what they're looking for on that planet?
In the Clone Wars. I suspect so.
Or at least Balin's looking for. And
I think Balin's looking for either Abeloth or one of the trilogy. But one of the three. Because there's
some people say it might be that Bendu guy, the Force monkey or whatever the hell it was.
Maybe. I mean, but there's those Force gods, the dad and...
Yeah, the dad, the son, and the daughter.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's the statues at the end.
Yeah,
those statues were pretty cool looking, I gotta say.
They were. They reminded me very much of like Skyrim / God of War.
Yeah. Yep. Or Lord of the Rings even had statues like that in it.
Very true.
Or even some of the real statues in real life that exist like that. Which you look at and you're like, huh, that's impressive. People built those.
Yeah,
A lot of time with a chisel.
There was one of the God of War ones, like the first big boss of the second game was the Colossus of Rhodes. He actually existed. He's not there anymore. Now it's just his feet.
You can just see his feet there. But
yeah,
that's actually one of the things I thought of when I was like, real life ones.
Yeah. Well, but he wasn't carved in a mountain. He was actually like, iron or whatever he was.
Was it iron?
No, probably not.
I thought it was rock because of the way it was like broken off at the legs. But also, mostly what I know about that is probably from comic books or other literature that's probably not fully real.
Yeah, I also, I'm not.
Those things, I like watched a DuckTales episode on, and I'm like, I'm an expert.
DuckTales said,
"Yeah, DuckTales. Scrooge McDuck would never lie to me, would he?" Although I will say, as far as Thrawn, I am really enjoying him, and I like the character. But for some reason, and I think it's partly his looks and partly the way he acts, I get Elon Musk vibes off of him, and it kind of bugs me.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think it's more like Elon's trying to base himself off of Thrawn or something. I don't know. There's just like some Venn diagram crossover in my brain. And it kind of bugs me. I think it's more of him and Elon kind of look alike in a way, sort of ish.
I can see that a little bit.
I mean, just enough that makes me go, huh, pudgy middle-aged dude.
Yeah, I think it's also the actor. I think
it is too. And it's just kind of the whole pompous, I'm better than you attitude.
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, like Thrawn pulls it off a lot better than Elon Musk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He doesn't come across as a jackass.
No,
self-centered jackass. He actually comes across as being, hey, maybe I should listen to this dude.
Yeah, competent and confident.
Although a lot of his quote unquote genius so far just seems to be like, yeah, that happened. I planned it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my fighters got destroyed when they found him, but yeah, I figured that would happen. It kind of sounds like he's just using sometimes it's like what is it? What's the term I'm looking for? Revisionist history. Like, hey, that plan went horribly wrong, just as I planned. Yes.
But one thing also I got frustrated with is I love reveals. And the problem is you can only do a reveal once. Once per like the person they're revealing to.
Yeah.
You can't do multiple reveals. And I really wanted the reveal because it's a big deal. Like no one knows outside of now Thrawn, and the buddy robot who I'm blanking on. Who rolls
Chopper?
around with Ahsoka. No, Ahsoka and
David Tennant.
Yeah.
The Who bot.
Right. Like they know Anakin Skywalker is Vader, but no one else does. Thrawn knows it, and even that one, like he's like, oh, you're like, oh wait, Anakin Skywalker is our master, and she's like, yeah. So it didn't dawn. No one knows. It was like kind of a tightly held secret that Darth Vader was Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah,
and the fact that like here she is, Ahsoka trying to raise a new apprentice, and the apprentice doesn't know that. That could actually affect things. That could actually cause a rift because Darth Vader wasn't like this little no-name. Like, oh yeah, he was a Sith who worked for Palpatine, but he didn't really do anything. He was more of a background character. No, Darth Vader's Darth fucking Vader.
Yeah,
and he was responsible for a significant amount of death and terror. And so the fact that they're kind of it almost seems like they're keeping it under wraps on purpose, which means to me, that said to me, like, okay, that means somebody that's going to be at the reveal at some point. And it kind of disappointed me that reveal was not done, outside of just, Thrawn going, oh, huh.
Oh, yeah, that throwing. Well, he did kind of do the what the fuck, look at me sort of thing. That was like,
I mean, for him, it was a pretty dramatic. He's just like,
well, yeah.
Her matches with General Anakin Skywalker?
I don't think he does, but Balin doesn't know that Anakin and Darth Vader are the same, does he? Because there was one line where he's fighting Ahsoka. Oh, does he? Okay, so he's one of like three people that knows. Okay,
he does.
Because I thought you were just saying like only a couple. Okay, cool.
No, he revealed he knew by saying like no one knew what he would become.
Yeah, so he made like a comment too, like you're from a long legacy of failed master-student relationships, or not like that.
It wasn't that. No, he was like you're a long legacy of death, and that was one of the things about it that Ahsoka was struggling with. It's like here I am. I was trained to kill. Instead of being, they even said that in that one episode. Was my favorite episode ever of all the Star Warsy things. I just love this episode. Episode 5 was amazing. But Anakin actually showed up, and that was the thing. He goes, Anakin says, when I was trained as a Padawan, I was a peacekeeper. They just kind of they would roll around, do negotiations, and they basically kind of like they would help out from time to time, but it wasn't.
They were almost
the
like
thing
wandering monks, just being like peddling advice.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, then it's like then the war happened, and then Ahsoka, instead of being raised like Anakin was, where it was very just kind of like him, she went from peacekeeper to suddenly she's a warrior
At the age of like 10 or whatever. Because they kind of touched on that in that flashback scene where it's like, hey, Ahsoka, let's go killing again. Boy, howdy. She's like, okay.
Yeah.
Come on, Snips, let's go murder some more people. Yay.
And that was the big thing she was struggling with, and almost like her transition from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White, where she was holding on to not just all that death she's done and felt guilty for, but also, she's holding on to the guilt of, had I been around Anakin, had I not dished him,
I could have probably prevented Darth Vader from happening. Yeah, and then I could have saved all those lives that he killed,
which isn't necessarily true. That may have.
But that's what guilt is. It's called survivor's guilt.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely. I think her leaving assisted his fall, but it didn't cause. And even Obi-Wan, who was like his brother, they were pretty tight too. Couldn't stop him from falling. So
he even tried cutting off most of his limbs and couldn't stop him.
Right, which again is like you could have followed his limbs and then you left him to burn. He was still alive. Kill him.
I know, that's kind of a D-bag move. It'd be like, for old times' sake, at least go down and just finish him off. Don't leave him there like being in pain, burning and stuff.
You're like, I can't kill him. Like, what's going on right now is way worse.
Yeah, right. I'd be like, I ran over my dog and it's suffering, but I don't have the heart to put it out of its misery.
It's just wailing and wailing and wailing. Just won't stop wailing.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to put in my earbuds and turn them up really high as I walk away on this flaming planet.
Well, especially if my dog got ran over and was screaming, I hate you, over and over at me. It's like, okay, well, we got to put this guy down.
Yeah. So, also, one thing I was thinking about, too, that I was just looking over my notes. When they flew into the whale and the whale opened his mouth and they landed inside? If you think about that from our perspective, that'd be like if a little fly buzzed right in front of us and we're just like, all right, we'll take you for a ride, and open our mouths and just seems like that'd be very uncomfortable or unenjoyable. And also, I was kind of hoping that as soon as they land inside the whale, like whale Oompa Loompas would come out from the sides and be like, Oompa Doompa.
I definitely wouldn't like it. Like having to hold something in my mouth like that.
Right. I mean, it's not like it was like this microscopic little thing. It seemed like it took up a chunk of its mouth. It seemed like it'd be annoying in there. But I do like when the whales do their galaxy jump. It kind of looks like they're doing the old Doctor Who thing. More so than the hyperspace travel. With a whole neat little accents going along.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Only happens when the space whales do it, not by ship. So therefore, we can say these space whales are probably from the Doctor Who timeline, would be my guess.
That's the only explanation.
It's the only explanation. Eventually, there will be Daleks showing up alongside the Empire.
Well, we should probably talk about the series, the show itself. I mean, I don't know. What did you ever think of the Shin Hati? It annoyed me that they didn't really do anything. I know this whole season seemed to be a lead up to another season. So if they don't do another season, then
oh yeah, it's supposed to be. There's going to be another season. From what I saw, it was they actually changed the Ahsoka descriptions from the Ahsoka series to Ahsoka season 1 or something like that. So it seemed like they're going to do a season 2.
And they're saying there'll be more. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I wonder how they're going to handle Balin though. If they're going to be continuing that story, they're going to have
to recast. They're going to have to. I mean, because he's not. Again, it's only one season. I mean, they're going to do like a Dumbledore thing. It's like, well, I think if Ray Stevenson had played this character over, first of all, several movies, and there have been decades where he was known as this one character, that'd be one thing. That's why, they are slapping faces on Luke Skywalker. They can't really recast Luke Skywalker at this point. I mean, I guess they could, but it's better for the continuity stuff to go ahead and slap old Mark Hamill face, or sorry, younger Mark Hamill face on top of someone else's to make it work. I totally get that. But for a character like Balin Skull, it's like, he's only been around in one season of a Disney Plus show. And even that he he came in, he kicked ass, and disappeared. Yeah, he was barely in the last episode or two. So
It almost might be better for his legacy this way. That way they can always be like, what could have been with him?
Yeah, I mean, it really is a bummer he's dead. I really liked Ray Stevenson.
Actually, since you brought up the fact that he was in Rome back in the day, a lot of his lines delivered in this just does seem just like a Roman general would have delivered his lines.
Oh, yeah.
He just like stands on cliffs and gives kind of little soliloquies. And
right. I mean, he wasn't a general, but he was definitely, his character.
Okay.
But his character became one of the first, like, not the first, but a Godfather type character. At the end of it, he had his own like mafia family, and yeah, it was pretty good. Anyway,
yeah, good show. Apparently, I never saw it.
And I don't know, like there was a couple of things that got a little cheesy, like out of nowhere, like Leia. General Leia said it's all good now.
X3PO. Yeah, I didn't like that. I was just... I actually kind of dug it with the fact where it's like, hey, that chick that was on trial, the Twi'lek, she was kind of like overstepping her bounds a few times. Where it was just like, hey, don't do that. And she's like, F you. I was like, well, at least she's getting some comeuppance. Not that, I want her to get it, but still, it made sense storyline-wise. But then, yeah, you got C3PO. Of course, it has to be C3PO showing up because can't have a series without him showing up somewhere. Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It did just feel like a Deus Ex Machina of being like, how does she get out of this? Well, you just wait a few minutes and it just works itself out.
And I mean, they are really... Dave Filoni is really trying to get us to hate the Republic. And they're making it work. It's working. I hate the Republic. They're just... Because that one guy, I don't know if it's incompetence or malicious, but he is absolutely trying to... Nuh-uh.
You're talking about the one senator that's always just like pain in the ass the entire time.
He's like,
yeah.
It's like, dude, what does it cost you? He's like, oh, we need to spend this money doing something else. Like, what does it cost you to check it out? It doesn't cost.
Yeah. Because he's one of the bad guys, obviously. They're just horrible at telegraphing that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
horrible in the sense they make it very obvious.
But remember the latest Mandalorian where they spent way too much time on Coruscant, but it showed just the incompetency of the Republic. They're just, we're all good now. Like all of these Imperial people, they're we're gonna let them work, but we're gonna have our boot on their throat the whole time. And so we're not gonna let them actually do anything, and we're gonna blindly just take apart all this Imperial stuff, even though it can be used for something else. But we're just gonna. I mean, I think it's different than dismantling a Holocaust doctor room.
I was about to say, is this like an allegory for World War I when they're tearing apart all the German ships and everything?
I guess, but then again, it's like it can still. The technology itself is not evil. The Star Destroyers by themselves aren't evil. They're just
we could turn them into terraforming ships where we just bombard the crap out of something. We don't like the surface of that planet. We'll just level off the top mile of that surface and see what's underneath.
And that was the thing about that one guy who, he got lobotomized at the end of the series, or that show, where he's like, there are useful things in here that, y'all are just throwing away for it just willy nilly. Like, can we please save some of the stuff? They're like, nope, we're destroying it all.
Maybe it's bad memories. They want to keep people from having PTSD over the whole war and everything. Like, hey, here comes our peacekeeping ship. It happens to be a Star Destroyer. Sorry if that triggers any of you. We come in peace as giant like war machines just hovering overhead. And one thing, as far as I don't know, those dice badges that they wear in this series, I guess they wear them all along, but I don't know, they just look stupid in this one for me. Maybe it's just on the main Twilight character, but those little like silver emblems that show their ranking. Kind of looks like little dice stuck on the shirt. I don't know why those just stand out so much on their outfits. It just looks, I don't know, corny. Looks like something you'd see in like a high school play or something.
I'm going to go ahead and say this. I like the series overall. I really did. I can sit and complain. I loved the episode 5 where, Hayden Christensen actually came in and dressed as a classic Clone Wars Anakin. And
you gotta even have a fun sword fight between him and Ahsoka.
Yeah, it started off fun, then became not fun. And
it's fun to watch, I should say. Not fun for them.
But I just loved the transition because when Anakin first started fighting, he did a classic Anakin move, which is the twirl. He does
Mm.
the twirl behind the back, and that was his thing. And he did it immediately. And when he did, I immediately reacted like, "Oh yeah!" And then I kind of went back and I YouTube a little bit, and come to find out, like he did that all the time. Like that was his signature move. Like so, it was really kind of fun to see that again in live action doing this stuff. But then when he became Vader, not necessarily in suit, but in like Sith eyes and stuff, he fought more like Vader and even talked more like Vader because she's like, he goes live or die, and she just doesn't answer, and he turns around and goes incorrect. Like that's a Vader ass thing to say. He went from no, you don't understand, or a lot more human. His voice
from emotion filled to just cold,
to
calculated killer.
Yeah, he just incorrect. It just starts attacking her, and his attacks are a lot more straightforward, like Vader's, but also a lot stronger. Whereas earlier when they were sparring initially, they are kind of bouncing off each other. Now he's powering through her blocks. She blocks and he just knocks him out of the way because he's so fucking strong.
And there's a neat special effect too while they're fighting too. If you notice, their footprints were like staying stuck in the little pathways for like a half a second after they moved around.
Oh, I did notice that. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was kind of a cool little effect. Just like little subtle things like, well, that's neat. That area still feels like a fucking one of those like mobile running games though. Guide Ahsoka down this path, jumping over little lightsabers as they come on the screen. Wee, bloop, bloop, bloop.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's all I could think of was like Treasure Run or whatever those games were called back then.
And everyone, I saw a few reactions of it, and everyone was loving like Captain Rex. I mean, Rex is fine, but I mean, let's be real. He's just, they didn't have to get, so they just got the same guy who made all the other voices and just threw him in there real quick. And I don't know. I just didn't, I'm not that closely tied to the clones as I am the Jedis. There are definitely clones I like, and Captain Rex is cool, but I didn't have the same reaction seeing him as some of these people who are just like, oh my god, there he is.
That's the biggest thing I've seen ever in one of these shows.
I'm like, yeah, that's all cool and all, but Anakin, he's right there. Come on, guys.
Maybe some people just have Anakin burnout.
I doubt. I mean, he's not around enough. I will hope he shows up more in the next season, because he did, his Force Ghost is there at the very end. He's kind of, they're like, oh, I see something out there, or whatever, and he's out there just watching.
Yeah. Of course, if you ever just want to avoid him following you around as a Force Ghost, just go out to the desert. He hates sand.
Well, not really. He was standing in sand.
I'm just making a joke from that horrible line.
I know.
It would be funny though if you could just like pick up a handful of sand and throw it as Force Ghost, and it just like freak out and like dissociate. Yeah, it's like
water ghost for him. Salt.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Except just sand.
I really wish, one thing I would love, one retcon I would love is, I mean, it would be really difficult. It would be near impossible. But if they got everyone, Dave Filoni and all the people who are involved, and they just go back and retcon, a lot of the older stuff to make it work. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
So people would do another special edition for the first 6 and redo the special effects and stuff and change the story.
I don't know. I kind of wish they would just go back and like, okay, here's that actual canon now, and they went through a retcon to everything.
This goes back to what I was talking about. I have a feeling sometime, we'll be a lot older when this happens. They're going to go back and remake all the movies with like CGI characters, but like photorealistic CGI, kind of like you're seeing with the de-aged Luke Skywalker and stuff. And eventually they will just redo the entire series that way, the way they want it to do, and just completely nix all the ones that we know and love.
I mean, I don't necessarily want that, but I would definitely like them in particular with the lightsaber battles. Because I'm sure you've seen. I know I've sent it to you. You have. They redid the lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan and Vader, and they made it significantly better.
But think of that inserted into the movie as it is, it would just look so bad. Because all of a sudden you're just going from like, I don't know, 1977 special effects and moving speed to all of a sudden, here's some interesting CGI right off, or high quality CGI inserted into it, and then right back to the original special effects.
I mean, I hear you, but I think it'd be do it. Yeah, I think
I don't know. I'm sure we can find it where it's actually inserted in the movie and see how it comes across.
Well, it did.
But something about seeing
that one scene I sent you between Vader and Obi-Wan, they actually intercut that with the actual footage.
I don't think I actually saw the one where they undercut it. Maybe I'll have to rewatch it again.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's not a lot. They basically, Vader and Obi-Wan, they're locked swords, and that cuts over to Luke and them like finding the ship, and then it cuts back to them fighting. So they did intercut it, but it wasn't like the whole movie. I don't know. Like, I have desires. They're not going to happen. It's fine. I just
Your
really
desires
wish...
is how we got that weird Jabba the Hutt in the original trilogy.
Oh God,
that's all I'm going to leave here. Is I'm just going to say that your desires are what led to the Jabba the Hutt.
That being said, though, it was also the '90s, and they had no business doing that. They had no business sticking that. I worked in movie theater too. I was working at theater when they re-released Episode 4, and they stuck that janky ass Jabba the Hutt where Han Solo steps on his tail. What the like?
And then they did that comedic look on Jabba the Hutt's face, like what?
Yeah, it was like, ugh. And I'm like, dude, you stepped on Jabba the Hutt's tail? What is wrong with you?
That's like a murdering offense, not just a.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Like the Jabba the Hutt they have established is he would have him like just quartered for that, but like, oh no, it's all good.
Yeah, we'll just laugh it off later. And then I'll seal your ass in carbonite. Maybe that's why I did seal him in carbonite. People say it was because of the debts, but it's really because he stepped on his tail.
And one thing, actually, I found out recently. It was my understanding that Lucas, for the prequels, had intended to go into the midichlorians, whatever, and like go to like a micro, kind of what they did in the Ant-Man in the microverse.
Yeah.
Or whatever. They were going to do that with midichlorians, and it was going to be a whole thing. That's what I heard.
Yeah, that's what George Lucas did. No, George Lucas has just changed his mind on what he said back then.
Okay.
George Lucas literally, there's interviews where he's like, no, we're going midichlorians, we're going to microscopic world, and it's going to be like inner space kind of stuff. And But now, like in the last like 2 or 3 years, he's completely changed his story, and he's like, no. My original plan was to focus on the female side of the Force users and the female Jedis and bring it more into like equal footing between males and females.
Well, what I heard recently was it was going to be Darth Maul was going to be the big bad, and his apprentice Darth Talon was going to come out, and who was female. And so I'm like, oh man, and they were like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, that makes me so angry that they didn't do that.
So they went from trying to make the whole series about him to killing him and making sure he's dead and never coming back. That doesn't make sense. I think George Lucas is lying to you.
Well, George Lucas probably lied to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I just want them to bring Darth Talon. Darth Talon is awesome, and they're just, I don't know if they're ever gonna do it. She's a Twi'lek. She's a red Twi'lek with I think we talked about it the last time. She's red Twi'lek with tattoos similar to Darth Maul.
No, neat. I reckon.
Yeah, look her up, like real quick, Darth Talon, and you'll see what I mean. And she would have taken off. She absolutely I think she would have been very quickly. Oh yeah,
she's marketable as hell.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. She is marketable as hell. So the fact they dropped the ball on that one.
She looks a lot like a character from fucking Baldur's Gate 3, actually.
Does she? Well, yeah, because her look is pretty iconic. I mean,
yeah, and she's not the only character that looks like that. She looks like a lot of those, she-devil warriors from Frankfurt. Stuff. And,
but I am not going to sit here and say, oh, she's so unique, because that would be a lie.
Nope, but I can exactly tell you why you're like, oh yeah, she'd go over well. Oh yeah.
I mean, she's hella marketable. So the fact they didn't,
they haven't yet.
Very true.
Yes, they might still do that.
Because Darth Maul's marketable. I mean, he looks pretty badass, and they only let him move for like 5 minutes. I mean, and he's a great character because look what they did after the fact.
Yeah.
After the fact, they brought him back, and he's now one of the most beloved characters outside just looking cool.
Remember when they said that they cut him in half so that people knew he was dead and he would never come back?
Right? Never mind.
Yeah.
Dave Filoni's like, give me a second. Hold my beer.
Oh, did you know that the Ahsoka character was literally just created due to a conversation between Filoni and Lucas? I guess Filoni was sitting down with Lucas and was like, hey, did Anakin ever have a Padawan? And Lucas was like, sure, why not? And they came up with Ahsoka right there on the spot.
I mean, hell, why not? I mean,
yeah. But it's just Filoni being like, hey, I have a question. And George Lucas was like, oh, that's a good one. Sure, okay, let's make one now.
I respect that a lot more than just him lying. Like, oh yeah, I had all of it planned out before I even made the first one. Yeah. Like, no, you did not.
Well, this might also been Filoni saying it, not George Lucas. Because I can picture George Lucas being like, "Yes, I've thought of this the entire time."
Yeah, and here's the thing, though. Here's the big thing. No, you didn't, and that's fine.
Right? It's
You know,
okay to admit you were wrong at one point, or not wrong, but
or
you
not
didn't
just
think of
wrong. Just like
something.
you're thinking about on the fly. That's fine. That's what creators do. I mean, you don't need to have everything planned out from the jump. I mean, yeah, sure, story wise, if you're making a story like that, it's nice to know if you have like some kind of overall arc. I mean, hell, it would have helped in the prequel trilogy, not prequel trilogy, to the most recent trilogy, because Lord knows y'all didn't know what the fuck you were doing. They were just like, oh, we're just gonna throw some stuff together, and we're gonna have each movie. We're gonna write each movie without even taking consideration the overall plot of the trilogy. That was their problem. They went in there not knowing what they're gonna do, and it boggles the mind why they thought that would work. You have one of the biggest franchises ever, and you're gonna be like, we're just gonna leave it to each individual director to take this movie in whatever direction they feel like taking it in. It's
That's kind of weird. Apparently, there's a different director for each episode of this series too.
And that's fine.
Yeah,
that is totally cool. Like I don't really care about the different directors, but when you give the different directors, if
free range to give their own vision,
yes,
go
and your own, like each director made their own version, and like okay, just react to the last one. We don't know what the 8th episode is going to be, but someone wrote the first one without taking consideration. Oh, the first one's fine, but the second one they wrote the episode without any consideration where it was going to go. I mean, it's like passing around you're like writing a paper and you're handing around to different ass people going, here, write the next chapter. Just, quickly familiarize yourself with what happened before, but don't consider what's going to happen afterward. So that's basically what they deal with the most recent movies. And and that's the reason why they turned out so bad.
So one scene that kind of tingled my dingle on the show was when they're landing that Star Destroyer over the sisters, like big temple spire thing.
Yeah.
All I could think of was Zap Brannigan like making sexual comments while doing that. Look at that, Kiff. Look at that giant pillar going inside of our ship. Gently and slowly, Kiff. It's almost sexual, isn't it? I mean, come on. You can see Zap Brannigan.
Oh, yeah.
Just be like, yes. Nice
Absolutely.
and gentle, Kiff. Just the way they like it.
With the Chimera.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I saw that ship. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, that ship!" I'm like, so what? It's just a Star Destroyer. And then I got reminded, like, "Oh, it's the Chimera." I'm like, "Oh, that's right. It actually has a name, and everyone knows it. That's right." Okay,
it's got a little paint design on the bottom of it. It sets it apart.
I mean, they really went to town on those designs for the Stormtroopers, and I was fine with that. I mean, I appreciate that the design. They decided, like, okay, these are.
I did like the fact that they had all dirty, fucked up armor and stuff because they've been stranded for 9 years, and it's kind of like patched together by those little red ribbons that the sister witches have, or their red fabric of whatever, of patching,
of whatever.
Yeah, the red fabric of patching.
And yeah, I mean, I do also I appreciate the undead. I mean, it wasn't quite how, because they actually have, it is canon in the Star Wars. I don't know if it's still canon, but it was canon last I saw. They have zombies in the Star Wars universe. And so, although it wasn't quite the same because this was zombies from, witch magic, but it was still it was fun to see them having to struggle with basically a zombie apocalypse a little bit.
Kind of struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, although they could just ran around cutting off limbs and legs and stuff and been a little less worried about those zombies, because
I will say it was kind of annoying when they realized, oh, hey, look, a lightsaber to the head is going to do it. And then they didn't keep doing that.
Oh, right.
Why would you find the thing that's going to work and then not continue doing that? They'd be like, oh, hey, if you shoot zombies in the head, it kills them immediately. Great. Someone keep on pumping round after round in their chest.
Shoot them in the torso? Okay, I got it.
So that did annoy me. I mean, and plus it's common sense. I mean, why if you shoot someone in the chest and they get up, the first thing you do next is shoot them in the head. Like, that's just what you do. It's the fact that they that wasn't like their go-to move with lightsabers. Because she lightsaber that one dude and he fell through, and then they chopped the other guy's head off and that worked. Continue doing that. You have lightsabers. they chop things off.
That is their job.
Yes. So,
and as we've learned, torso shots or body shots with lightsabers are only fatal about 1 out of every 4 times, I would say. I mean,
right? Yeah,
because Qui-Gon, but nobody else has died from a body shot yet. I don't think.
That's a lot of people are complaining about that. Like, so they took 1 minute, you get stabbed in the chest, you're done. And I get it matters. It depends on where you stab through the chest. Like, if I stab you through the gut, there's a chance you might live. If I stab you in the heart, there's not.
Yeah, but if you take that sword and you make it, a 1 million degree fire blade that can melt through solid steel, I'd imagine no matter where you stab somebody.
Well, the idea is that it cauterizes, so you wouldn't bleed out from a stab like that. So if I stabbed you in the stomach and it pulled out, you'd actually probably there's a chance you could live because it automatically cauterizes the wound.
Hey, look, man, I watched a lightsaber melt through like a 6-inch steel door, like a nice wide pattern. Cauterizing ain't going to help with that.
Well, no, because they left it in there. If you stab someone through the stomach and leave it in there for a while, sure. But usually it's like stab, pull out.
Yeah.
So,
I
guess I'm also stretching. So,
yeah, and I don't think that's exactly how cauterizing a wound works either.
Well, plus, Vader stabbed a little girl, and she lived. So
yeah. See, lightsabers are not that deadly. Blasters seem to have a better kill rate. When they actually,
I guess it depends on how you use it. Like if you chop someone's head off, that sure does a trick. But yeah, or it seems like hacking with a lightsaber versus stabbing with a lightsaber seems to do more damage.
Yeah, so we're going like Elden Ring or Dark Souls rules. It's like, nah. You want yourself a slashing weapon, not a thrusting weapon.
Right.
Do you remember that movie, Batteries Not Included, with those little robot things? Those Witch Sisters little flying orbs kind of reminded me of those Batteries Not Included. Maybe they're like the beta versions of those.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, I just see those little orbs flying around everywhere, building stuff.
I like that movie. I really enjoyed that movie.
Batteries Not Included. I liked it too. I saw it once when it came out and haven't seen it since then, I don't think.
Oh, I watched it a bunch of times.
Did you?
Oh yeah, we had the VHS of it.
It was a very popular movie back in the day. I remember.
Oh man, it was huge. I mean, and plus it was kind of an anti gentrification.
Yeah, it really was because I remember at the end one little tiny baby robot trying to rebuild the whole apartment building tile by tile. It's like, oh, that's cute. Oh, speaking of which, those crab people and their little shell things. Boy, howdy, that was another thing that seemed kind of toyetic. And also, did you notice too, whenever they introduce a new species, they almost always seem to have like a baby one in the process, like waving and being cute. I mean, they did that with the Ewoks. They did that with these guys. There's a couple other instances I can think of. It's like,
it really does. Once again, you start nitpicking. It's like she found that dude in like 5 seconds. She's like, okay, I'm gonna get on this. I'm getting on this dog thing. I'm riding that way. Again, it's an entire planet. And Ezra's been there. Yeah.
And how fast these dog things run? Because at one point, Thrawn's like looking at this giant map. He's like, hey, they're way over there. They don't have nearly enough time. And they hop on their dogs. And like in 10 seconds, they've gone what appears to be like 40 miles.
What was Thrawn waiting for? Like the thing was there. Why did he start docking immediately? Like he shows up. He's like, okay, go that way. All right, guys. While they're off doing that stuff, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, Thrawn kind of dropped the ball on that. And how long does it take for him to load up all them little casket-looking things? I mean, they had a pretty big army going at it.
I guess loading. I mean, that also kind of answers my question. If he was loading things up, okay, fine. But I don't know.
Yeah, because remember they were loading up those whatever boxes those were.
This is again. We are now nitpicking. We're nitpicking now.
Oh, well, aren't that what we're supposed to be doing?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the problem?
There's no problem. I just want the listeners to know that we understand that we are nitpicking.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think they understand that we understand. Maybe. Who knows?
What do you say?
When Thrawn shows up and they're chanting Thrawn over and over again, was that the soldiers chanting it, or is that just his theme song?
I think it was the soldiers chanting.
Okay. So
I think that was the premise.
Do they have to line up and chant every time he does anything? It's like, hey, I have to go from my office to the bathroom. Get all the soldiers ready. I need my welcoming to go take a crap. Leaves his office and just walks towards the bathroom. Thrawn. Thank you, soldiers.
Well, I guess this This is the first company we've had in 10 years. Let's go down there.
That's true. We've been rehearsing day in and day out on this, troops. Now is our time. They got like one like actor or acting coach stormtrooper be like, guys, it's showtime. Let's get down there. Remember, chant from the chest.
It seemed like he already. I mean, maybe he just reacted to the news quickly, but he seemed like he already knew the Empire had fallen. Which is, he was out. He was out there whenever it happened. So I don't know, how the.
Yeah. He probably sat down and figured out all the strategies in his head and was like, there's an 85% chance that the Empire lost this because I'm gone.
Fair enough.
Yeah, maybe he's such a great tactician, you could kind of see where it was going. Maybe.
Darth Vader was brutal. He was great in battle, but I don't know how much of a tactician he was.
Yeah. He was very rash. Yeah.
But again, he knew Anakin was Vader, so.
Oh yeah, back to those crab people. After that one big fight too, and there was all those dead stormtroopers and like barbarians and stuff, I really wanted the crab people to be all innocent and look up and be like, food, and start eating the dead bodies, just like the most horrifying way possible. Be like, oh, they're obviously a scavenger people. Just like pulling off the armor and just like munching straight on the corpses.
I mean, it would be the first time that your little cute creatures are like that. I mean, Ewoks ate people.
Yep, they did. So... They were gonna. But yeah, that would be pretty awesome if all of a sudden those crab people are just like, food. And their weird little shells. I actually assume they're kind of like hermit crabs and they just kind of like find their shells because otherwise they wouldn't be able to put clothes on if they had shells permanently attached to them, I would guess. Notice they were all wearing kind of dapper little clothes.
Yeah, what? Why are they wearing clothes?
So you don't get to see their crab dinguses hanging out, I guess?
I guess. I don't know. Like... it didn't really. I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of those things.
Yeah, they just kind of seemed there to I don't know, make people go like, "Oh, that's cute. I could use a stuffed animal version of those."
I mean, Lord knows this is not the first time Star Wars had made something specifically for toys.
Yeah. And then when Ezra showed up too, and he's like running around force pushing everybody right off the bat, I really wanted him to be doing like an Austin Powers with a judo chop, just him running around, be like force push, force push. Force push. Every time he does it, he says it at the same time. That would have been pretty awesome. Force push. Force push. Do you have to say that every time? Yes. Force push.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Force push.
Yeah. That also showed me, too, that'd be really bad to have, like, untrained Jedi kids on the playground just force pushing everybody off the ladders and slides and shit like that. Little Timmy was quite the bully today. He learned force push and has just been using on anybody and everybody, including his teacher.
As much as I appreciate, like, Ezra, I don't know. I never latched onto him like that. I mean, one of those things is, I understand I wasn't that in a rebel, so that's part of the issue. But I just never, like, oh, let's all do this for Ezra. Yay, Ezra. Oh, he made it to back home. Yay, Ezra. I'm like, I don't care about Ezra. I really just don't.
He seems terribly average as far as Star Wars characters go. I don't know if average is the right word, but you know what I mean. It's like, I don't know. Nothing really stands out about his personality, I guess. But then again, I haven't really watched Rebels either, so.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I did watch Rebels. I mean, he's an interesting character. He definitely went through his own arc. He dabbled with the dark side. He was actually Darth Maul's apprentice for a little bit. He's definitely gone through a bunch of different stuff, but in the end, I don't know. I like Ahsoka way better. So, and I kind of wanted the Ahsoka show to be more about Ahsoka. I mean, it definitely was her. It was followed her, but I do. It did
feel more like bringing the Rebels crew back together than anything.
It really did. It's like Ahsoka was just a vehicle to bring the Rebel crew back on, and I don't know. Like, I just want to see more of her. I do like the idea of, she was treated like a Ronin samurai, and apparently a lot of the titles of each episode had a lot of very closely matched samurai and Japanese cinema from back in the day. And so, at the very end, when Thrawn called her a Ronin, it was very, it was kind of driving home the fact that she's a masterless samurai. Yeah, going through. And I wanted to see more conflict between her and, what she's become, who she is fundamentally, and the the whole thing they kind of tied up with episode 5 with Anakin showing up and saying, "Hey, you can move on from me. Don't you feel guilty?" Which I wanted more of that, and I mean, also I wanted more Anakin, but I just wanted more of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the Anakin scene, but I don't know. I guess it didn't tug at my heartstrings the way it did with you so much.
Oh no, I guess not, because I loved it. The episode 5 thing.
Yeah. Because I was like, hey, there's Anakin. Okay, cool. They tied up that loose end. Neat. And that's pretty much it. It wasn't like this giant, like, oh my God, they're back together. This is amazing.
Well, but how much of the cartoons have you seen?
Not that much. So, yeah.
There you go. There it is, right there. I mean, and I understand. I mean, yeah, that's fine. It's this show. That's one thing about the show, though, is like it. I think it did lose some of that loss in translation.
Oh, yeah. That was actually one of the complaints I've seen about
and
this show is you kind of almost need to watch Rebels to get half the references in it. Which isn't really true because I didn't really watch it. I got the references. It just didn't have as much emotional impact as it would have if I had been watching Rebels the entire time. Because, yeah, you can tell a lot of these scenes they've shot were kind of like to tug at the emotional heartstrings or nostalgic heartstrings. You're like, remember that? Remember that? Poke, poke, poke. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, look, they're back together.
Yeah, exactly. Or when they make or they're talking like Ezra and they're making comments about his old master and his lightsabers and stuff. It was like, well, okay, that kind of makes sense, but it makes a lot more sense if you actually, watched Rebels.
And one thing that also it just bothers me, and this has been it bothered me ever since they first did it. And I mentioned that last episode on this topic. It bothers me that the son of the Jedi and the Twi'lek, or the human Jedi and the Twi'lek, looks human except for green hair. Hera, between Hera and I'm blanking. What's the Jedi's name? This is driving me crazy.
Which Jedi?
The father, from Rebels.
I don't know.
Why am I blanking on his name? Why?
Age. That'd be my guess.
Kanan Jarrus. Jesus Christ. Kanan, between Kanan and Hera. So they had a son, Jason, which is all good and well. But Jason looks human except for green hair, and that's dumb. Like, I don't see... Like, so you tell me his mother, who, carried him and birthed him, he doesn't have any genetic characteristics of his mother outside green hair. He looks primarily human.
He has Twi'lek genitalia. We just haven't seen it yet. There you go. He's half Twi'lek below the waist.
I mean, I would take even green skin. Like, green skin looks human, that's fine. But, like, dude, give him some head tails. I don't know why that's...
Probably because they probably did try that and they just said, wow, that looks awful. Because they basically just have a kid with, like, a lumpy head, I would think.
Well, but Star Wars, hell, like, if you want to say that, Ahsoka's a lumpy head.
She's got, like, tentacles coming out of her head, though. But if you just make, like, quarter-length tentacles, then they just look like lumps. Like, the Doctor did a very poor job with forceps pulling him out of his mother. Yeah.
There you go. Well, regardless of what you say, I don't like it. And but again, I'm just some jackass.
Also, probably they don't want to strap a kid into a chair for hours and hours of makeup. Might violate child labor laws, too, actually, because they can only work a few hours.
They absolutely would.
But they strap a kid down to makeup.
Hello. Don't you remember Howard the fucking Duck?
Yeah, I guess it was 2 hours in and out of a suit, but that's different than sitting in a chair and makeup for 8 hours.
Well, why would it be 8 hours? Why would it take more time to put a kid in a full suit?
It depends on how much makeup you're doing, I guess. All I know is the makeup for Worf took 8 hours a day to do, just so you know. If you want to argue with Michael Dorn on that, then you're more welcome to.
Well, but also Michael Dorn is on screen a lot more. Yeah, Michael Dorn's like a main character in a show. This kid shows up, goes, listen to lightsabers,
and then just like stares off in the ocean, thinking to himself, "I should just chuck myself off this and then end this life right now." I'm a freak child of two people.
I love it. It's like, oh, he's force sensitive, and so
it's like 2/3 of the people in the Star Wars universe. It feels like. I mean, you even have force sensitive stormtroopers nowadays.
Well, and again, it's like the whole thing, like go from 0 to 60. It's like, okay, 1 minute she can't move anything. Next thing she's like, oh no, jump across this chasm and I'll push you. Like,
Yeah, that scene
wait,
was
what?
dumb.
What's you just now learned how to call a lightsaber to your hand. I'm gonna trust you to force push me across a chasm.
They're kind of cheapening force powers a little bit. It's so impressive when like Luke Skywalker was able to, move a lightsaber with his mind. Now you got pretty much like neophytes holding up Death Stars constantly or fighter ships all the time. It's like, because.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I was just thinking when Ahsoka and what's his butt Ezra held up the ship. It's like, I don't know. I feel like that's something that should be reserved for even higher level Jedi. I mean, I guess it wasn't a Star Destroyer, but still.
Well, Ezra I'm fine with. Ezra and Ahsoka is fine. Like I because Ezra did have formal training, and he was fairly strong with the Force, so I'm okay with that. And Ahsoka's Ahsoka. Anakin probably done it by himself because that's the thing. Like he was so strong.
That's because he's from a lineage of Jedi, long lineage.
Well, they don't know who he is. He was born from the Force. According to them, he was literally born from the Force. Like,
that just means his mom was a slut. Nobody knows who the dad is. Yeah, that's all that is. They're just trying to cover up his. She was known as the Night Train Jedi, and not because of. Yeah. Anyways. Hey, wait a minute. Since that means that so if a Twi'lek and a human could have a kid that looks just like a human, that means potentially Yoda could be Anakin's dad, possibly. He just kind of Yoda getting freaky with a human lady just comes out as Anakin. Be like, oh no, we don't know who your parents were. Nah. Yeah,
comes out as Anakin.
Oh, did you notice too those the people that fight the crab people, the barbarian guys? They make the same sound as Tusken Raiders. A little just grunting. Yeah, I think I realized too why they did that. Because if you don't have like actual language on them, you can murder them wholesale and not feel bad about it.
Wait, time out. Ivy, what? Ivy! What?
Lunch.
What about lunch?
You said we're doing Jersey Mike's and you never went.
I know, because I'm recording. I'm going to do it after.
That'll happen. Sometimes just warn them, if you keep rolling your eyes like that, they'll stick that way someday. That's very old school. That's when you point at the neighbor kid with the cross eyes and you're like, just like him. And you watch the kid just run away crying. I only have cross eyes because my dad kicked me in the head once. Yeah.
I hate you guys.
Could you? What was I talking about again? Oh, yeah. The fact that those barbarian style guys just talked in Tusken Raider grunts. If you'll notice too, basically in Star Wars, and this actually goes in a lot of movies and stuff, if something just talks in grunts and groans, it's usually okay to murder them left and right. If they have complex speech patterns, then they're more humanized and less likely to be killed. Because you notice the crab people, none of them died. They had like a full-fledged language. Barbarian guys, they just had grunts. They just died like orcs, grunting and making weird noises.
And it was stormtroopers that, while they did have grunts,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to dehumanize them somehow, so that way you don't feel bad about murdering them wholesale. Well, in theory.
And that's the thing. That's why I respected the Clone Wars cartoon so much, because they didn't give a fuck. Oh, is this a human with a full-fledged background that can speak and talk? Oh, right. His neck got broke.
It's kind of sad when the quote-unquote kids animated shows are more mature than the actual like full-fledged movies and TV series.
And then with the clone troopers, no, they straight up gave them names, personalities, and all this stuff. I'm like, oh look, there's a bunch of guys over there. They're just clones, man. Like they're just like everyone else. Oh, 30 of them just got blown up all at once. Well, there we go. Let's move on.
And one thing about this series is some of the special effects are really good, but good God, the faraway shots of people riding on those dog wolf things, those were rough. I don't know if you paid attention to them or whatnot, but some of those animations were bad. Yeah, it was just like, oh God. That's like PS2 graphics bad kind of thing. But then like the next scene will be like some excellent, amazing special effects. Also, this series seems to have a really good sound and music design, like better than most Star Wars ones. And I'm not sure what the difference is really.
It must be a scene to scene type thing. I mean, because again, you go back to like one of the roughest I've seen, hands down, no question, was the last episode of the second season of Mandalorian. Good God, when Luke Skywalker showed up. Like, is this a PS3? What's going on?
So,
I mean, I'm not going to go so far to say it was a PS2 bad, but it was not good.
It wasn't good.
And then when they brought him back when was it the next episode? Oh no, it was in that Book of Boba Fett. When they brought him back, he looked real good.
They learned from their mistakes.
I'm like, I know you can. So just keep doing that. You know, why are you doing this, lower tiered thing when you can do this? I will say, like, aside from every so often you get a still frame mannequin, it's like, okay, you can kind of see, it looks a little not quite right. But by and large, they did a pretty good job. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Like you said, occasionally if you stare real hard and squint, it's like, oh, yeah, you can tell. But, I mean, at a glance.
Yeah, just like sometimes the light with him just so where you can see like his smile line was a little bit a little thicker than it would be on someone young. But because I saw some screenshots when I was looking at like online, like just some images. And it was like, oh man, that doesn't look very good. But in practice,
and also fine. Too, my memory of the way Anakin looked back in the day is pretty fuzzy because I literally saw the prequels once when they first came out, and that was it. I have not seen them since. So,
really, that's a shame.
Yeah, I should go back and rewatch them. Be like, hey, these are slightly better than I remember, or whatever.
You should. I mean, be prepared to like the Phantom Menace is still like 90% stupid.
Yeah.
So.
Political meetings and podcast races.
I mean, there are also issues with the original trilogy, like with episode 4, 5, and 6. Just, I think I think Lucas should introduce his ideas. I think they should go through like someone else who's more creative, and then someone else direct it.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what some of the better things. What they need is what happened with Empire Strikes Back. Because Lucas wrote and directed episode 4.
But then he sent it off for refinement for the other ones.
Well, no, then on the second one, on the Empire Strikes Back, he wrote it, but then headed off to Kirshner. Kirshner was one of his teachers, and Kirshner doing it say, okay, Lucas, thank you. I'm doing it this way. Like, this is how I'm doing it. This is my, like, I appreciate your input. We're doing it this way. And so Lucas was, from what my understanding is, Lucas was kind of miffed about that. So when he made Return of the Jedi, he got a director who is more likely to listen to him. And so he got this director who was most likely to listen to him. So he had a lot more hands-on on the Return of the Jedi. So of the original 3 trilogy, he had the least to do with Empire Strikes Back, which is my favorite. And I think a lot of other people really like Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, that's generally considered the best of them all. That is the first one.
And he had the least amount. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't involved. He was absolutely involved. But of the 3, he was the least involved in Empire Strikes Back. And then what happened in Phantom Menace? He was totally in it.
Yeah, full creative control. Which is weird, too, because he said that he wrote that movie for, like, 12-year-olds, but they have a lot of, like, Senate meetings and stuff, and it's like...
Yes, it's like, I mean, the Simpsons did a great parody on that where I'm sure you remember he was like the original Star Wars.
Oh yeah, the title crawl just goes on and on and on.
Well, no, when they were in a Senate meeting and then this AT-AT smashes through the wall and Bart's like, yeah, finally some action. And they're like, excuse me, it's not your turn. So the AT-AT goes, oh, excuse me. Proceeds to sit down, put glasses on, whip out a newspaper.
Yep.
Just like, God, like that's perfect.
Yeah, that's a very. It's almost like I feel like part of the reason they stuck that scene in too is just so they could put all those background characters in and be like, "Oh, look, ET's back there." Ooh.
Yeah, just stuff like there's so many, and this is not my idea, so I'm not trying to claim it, but I've heard a lot of people say, it would have been better off if they'd move things back. You start like episode 1 should have been episode 2. You already have Anakin who's raised, like, there was no reason to introduce him as a kid. There's outside of, like, toys. There's no reason to introduce him as a little boy. There's no reason, I mean, this is pod racing. No, it's not. You're a starfighter and you blew something up. Like,
that whole thing was just literally to get kids in that age range really into it because they can be like, hey, he's like me. I could be one of these kids too.
we're gonna, buy this kid with pod racing. Like, no, you're not. Like, you're a Jedi. It just. I mean, maybe this might be more Sith than do, but like, kill that motherfucker. You know. It's just, I don't know. It was the choices they made in episode 1 just boggles the mind. And now episode 2 I liked a lot more. With the Clone Wars, it of course has a lot of its own stupid ass shit too. But episode 2 should have been episode 1, episode 3 should have been episode 2, and episode 3 should have been like all Vader going around like hunting Jedi. Or something to that effect. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Cleaning up the after effects of Order 66 kind of thing.
Yes, kind of get things together, becoming what it become, like making the Empire become what it is. And it just, I don't know, like it just seems like, now that being said, they have since filled in the gaps. Like, had they done that, some of the stuff we have now wouldn't be around. But the Clone Wars cartoon, all that stuff has definitely like helped fill in the gaps. And so I still have my problems with the original, the prequel trilogy. But again, like we said a minute ago, I'm forgiving a lot more with all the additional stuff to it.
They've managed to retcon their way into your heart,
I guess.
Yeah. And you sound very sad by that.
Well, it's not really sadness. It's just like it's also not really fair because not many movies have the ability. I mean, Star Wars is in the unique position to, okay, we're going to release these movies. It's not really good, but give us a minute. We're going to add a bunch of other stuff that's going to change things enough that you actually care.
Yeah. You just need a rabid, toxic enough fan base to stick around through all that stuff.
Even though Disney has now come in here and like ruined a lot of the expanded universe, but now Lucas has gone and said, well, if it wasn't on TV, if it wasn't in the movies, then it didn't actually happen. To which case, then it's like, so what about the Ewok TV shows? Or Ewok movies?
Yeah, somewhere I read that I think the Ewok movies are supposed to be canon, but I'm not positive on that. Because that witch in that one, apparently she has been retconned as a witch of Dathomir kind of thing, so even though she's not...
has she?
Yeah, I actually was reading it's on Wikipedia, I think. They were talking about it, like she got retconned and is now officially a witch of Dathomir or something like that.
I mean, that makes more sense. But then again, we go back to if anybody wants to understand fully what we're talking about, please go back and listen to the Ewok episodes. But like, she was a moron then. She was an idiot. Again, like going back to the scene where she's like, he's yelling at her. So she, in front of him, grabs her ring like she's going to do something. It's like, nuh-uh, give me that ring.
Maybe that's why she got kicked out of the Witch's Dathomir, because she was an
stupid.
idiot. Yeah. I mean, she could have just been like, hey, you're the lowest mountain you're the idiot that's going to bring us down. Get out of here. Like, but where am I supposed to go? I don't know. Go to this indoor moon thing and just, I don't know, go fuck around with some Ewoks.
Maybe she was banished there. Like,
maybe it's like an Invader Zim thing where they're like, oh no, we need you to go spread the word on this planet. They just like point to a random planet somewhere. It just happens to be Endor. Or the forced moon of Endor. That always confused me too, the forced moon of Endor, because that can both be taken as it's a forced moon named Endor or the forced moon of a planet named Endor.
That's kind of like a ghost pirate.
Is it a pirate ghost or a ghost pirate?
Yeah. Like, are you a ghost dressed as a pirate, or are you a pirate that's become a ghost? That's the whole thing.
Yeah, right. Because, I mean, when I first heard forced moon of Endor, I thought that mean, the forced moon of the name Endor or whatever, because that kind of makes sense too. At least in my
and I always took it the other way. I always took it as like it's a forced moon of a planet named Endor. But
that's what I mean. But I mean, I was saying the forced moons was named Endor, whatever.
Yeah. So like, what's the official name of that moon? I mean, because we don't call it the desert moon of Earth.
Right. Like, the barren moon of Earth.
Yeah.
Maybe we should. That'd be very long.
So what's it called? But then again, that being said, we also call it just the moon.
Yeah, that's true.
Where it's like every planet has moons, but ours is
not. Yeah, but I'm sure if our moon had stuff living on it, we'd probably call it something a little different.
Well, then again, I come to find out, like I think I've talked about this, fairly recently. The sun actually has a name. It's Sol.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that Latin or Greek or something though?
something like that. And so when you
Yeah.
say solar system, it's that literally referring to soul system. Solar, that's the name.
Yeah.
So I found that recently, so I still like so, but then I still haven't heard when the moon is. Is it again? Is it the?
Let's see, moon. Well, lunar. So probably Luna.
It is. Yep, there you go. It's Luna. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
I have been corrected.
Yep. So there you go.
It is Luna. So lunatic.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're people who worship the moon. Oh yeah. Aha.
Aha!
Ho ho! Hee hee! And a couple of tra-la.
And now that you say that, I totally remember that too. Like I knew that, but I forgot. So here I am making a jackass of myself, going, "Moon has no name." Blah, 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 blah.
It's like,
you're like, it's called Luna.
It's actually,
right.
Actually, it's like, oh yeah.
So yeah, that's like I would say erase everything I just said, but fuck it, I'll roll with it. I was wrong. I'm moving it. So you got anything more to say about Ahsoka?
Oh yeah, at one point when the witches says it stinks of Jedi or it reeks of Jedi. What do Jedi smell like?
Potpourri.
Potpourri? All right. Like more of a patchouli kind of potpourri or more of a floral kind of potpourri?
Oh, totally patchouli.
Patchouli, okay. So
No
Jedi,
question.
I guess Jedis are kind of like space hippies, so that explains.
Yeah, no question.
So today we find out that Jedi smell like patchouli.
That's not a doubt
sense.
in my mind. They smell like patchouli.
Just like patchouli. That's what it smells like when they sweat. It's just they can't help it. That's the Force escaping them. The Force smells like patchouli. So outside of that, now that we got that figured out, I think I have everything that I was going to bring up.
Awesome. I mean, I fully encourage people to watch it. I really like the series. The stuff with Anakin's my absolute favorite. I'm not a huge fan of where things turned out, but I'm excited to see where that goes. You know, I'm excited to see I'm actually more excited to see what Thrawn will do, but it's also tempered by the fact that I know he's ultimately going to disappear at some point. Either they're going to kill him or he's going to be stranded somewhere else. Or
yeah, I was about to say stranded, or they could just put him in stasis, or he could just wind up in carbonite hanging on somebody's wall and get thawed out in 20 years for a new series.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
because death means nothing in the Star Wars world.
Because again, like outside from Vader, Thrawn is by far my favorite villain, and I mean through a lot of media because he was just so good. I mean, I first read about him in the books when it came out in the 90s.
And you're like, that's the kind of general I want to be.
He was just so awesome. And, you know, just the first Star Wars / sci-fi villain that I saw or I read that was legitimately competent. You know, it wasn't scary because he killed people. He wasn't scary because he ate babies. He was scary because he was cool, calm, and collected, could find out everything about you just by looking at the art of your culture. He's like, oh, I look at this art, this culture, I completely understand the thinking behind these people, and I'm gonna crush them. And he would do it. The only time, the only time he failed is when people didn't follow his design. He's like, okay, you gotta do A, B, C, and D, and then they go, okay, I'm gonna do A, B, then jump to D.
Yeah,
no,
yeah. He even kind of referenced that in a couple of lines where he's like, "I've seen so many people fall to the Jedi's, underestimating them and their stupid ways or whatever."
Yeah, I mean, because what happened? Ahsoka came out. He didn't. First of all, didn't assume he was dead. She was dead, and he's like, okay, I'm not gonna keep on throwing things at her until she dies. Until like all my guys are gone. I'm gonna pull back and be smart about this. Figure out where he is, just bomb the shit out of her.
Yeah.
So.
Unfortunately, his bombing strategy didn't work that great, or their bomb
strategy.
Their bomb aiming technology is not that great.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I kind of give it past is it's kind of hard to aim when you're that close. They just basically rained it on. But then again,
but also too, I mean, they're dropping like laser beams from space. It seems like they should have some giant explosions that have more than like an 8-foot diameter radius.
Yeah,
I mean, if you dropped like one big enough bombs of that, Shockwave would have taken care of enough things.
Yeah, it really should have worked. But, you know, it's Star Wars. It's fine.
Whatever. Yeah. God,
ultimately, he won.
Disbelief.
I mean, in the end, like, yeah, he ended up having to sacrifice those zombie soldiers, and he had to sacrifice that one chick who just became. It's like she's worked her whole life to become a mother, and then immediately, like, okay, you're a mother, yay,
Yeah,
okay,
this is
bye.
kind of one of those pet peeves of mine. This goes across all media. It's where the bad guy finally gets like their ultimate power and becomes like this big or quote unquote unstoppable badass, and like the very next scene they die. I mean, at least give them a little bit of time to flourish with their powers and have fun and show off what they can do. Just don't be like, I don't know. Too many times I've seen like happens in cartoons a lot too, or comics. It's like, hey, you've reached your fullest potential power now. Now go out and do something. And then like the next page of the comic, they're dead. And you're like, wow, that was anticlimactic.
Wah wah.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been nice to see her be a little bit more of a badass through more than just, I don't know, last 5 minutes of an episode. But again, that force push thing at the end was kind of cheesy. I mean, kind of okay, but kind of cheesy.
I mean,
hey, jump, and I'm going to push you the rest of the way.
Yeah, my biggest thing wasn't necessarily cheese. It was just like, you've had your powers for like 10 seconds.
Yeah. And where did Ezra hide that stormtrooper body? And how did he get off the plane, too, eventually? He's just eventually like, yeah, I've got to go deliver some mail. Good, borrow the ship for a while.
They did just kind of like skip a lot of steps there.
Yeah.
And again, like one thing I think it's one of my things that gets me through the day is like, I love the reveal, and I wanted to see the reveal of like, Mr. Douchebag is like, there's no Thrawn, and they're like, hey, by the way, Thrawn's here.
Yeah.
So
season 2, that'll probably be happening.
Yeah, also, season 2 with the movie or something, or they're gonna do that thing I hate in that respect, where they're just like, they don't show the reveal. That was one of the things about jumping off of Game of Thrones where that really made me upset. Is there's going to be the big reveal that Jon Snow was actually like the legitimate heir, and they're like, "Okay, we have something to tell you guys." And the camera, the music kind of crescendos, and everyone's like, "What's he gonna say?" And they fucking cut, and then they go to they cut, and they go to some other people who are doing something else, and then they just kind of cut to one like Sansa who's standing going, "Oh wow, now I know this information. What am I going to do with it?" I'm like, oh god, fucking damn it!
So yeah, I can almost see exactly what you're afraid of too. Where like instead of a big Thrawn reveal to the whole galaxy, all of a sudden they'll just be like a Senate meeting, and one of the people will turn to somebody else and be like, "Thrawn is returned somehow." Like, yes, and you're like, "Oh, that's lame."
I mean, at least they didn't do like they did that with Palpatine. At least they did it with Thrawn. At least with Thrawn, they gave a series of what happened versus just like, hey, just like we said, Thrawn came back somehow. Yeah. Or somehow Thrawn's back. Or
somehow Thrawn's returned. Like, yeah.
I mean, God, I mean,
32 takes and that's my best delivery of that line.
And there's been some rumors, and I don't believe it. But there's been some rumors where they're going to use the World Between Worlds to retcon the sequel trilogies or whatever it is.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me. They're just going to do a whole multiverse time travel kind of thing. Be like, hey, we can use the woods between worlds here to go where we want.
Yeah, I mean, if they did do that, I'd be okay with it because I really think they dropped the ball hardcore. But then again, it's like, okay, well now if you do that, now Luke and Leia and Han are all alive again. But Lord knows he's not going to play Han Solo again. By God, he's not going to do that.
Maybe. I mean, he swore he wasn't going to that one time, and then he came fucking back again because they backed up literally a dump truck full of money to his house.
Right.
I mean, I think he said like 3 times he's not coming back, but, when they start waving that many zeros in front of you, especially when you consider it's also probably like 2 days' work for him for a massive amount of money.
Right.
It's like, hey,
or they can like, oh, we changed things, so there's a butterfly effect, and he's dead now.
Yeah.
Or they pop in after he's dead already, and so I don't know.
Yeah, this whole Ahsoka series actually kind of was slightly riffed off of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe too, from what I was reading.
Well, yeah, they even kind of pulled that. That was one of the episode titles.
Yeah, one of the episode names, and also the World Between Worlds is apparently Filoni got that idea from the Woods Between Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, apparently it is directly from that. He was like, hey, I like that idea from The Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe, which is a book I read back in, like, elementary school and don't remember.
Oh, fair enough. I mean...
I remember it was a big book.
That's the thing.
With its Jesus allegories.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
Ha!
And I read it forever ago. I mean, I don't know. I still actually have like the original books. They're in a box set. They're old as shit. They're probably not worth anything because they're so old and like the pages are yellow. And I didn't take care of it at all. But I have them somewhere.
In between The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and the Indian in the Cupboard, there was a lot of like furniture-based kids stories back in the day, huh?
Yeah, I guess.
I named two.
Well, the one thing I always kind of upset me about the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe at the very end, so these kids live as royalty to the point where they're like maybe mid-20s, mid to late 20s, and they're out there hunting, and then suddenly they come back through the wardrobe, and they're like almost no time's passed, they're kids again, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we're kids again." Like, I would be horrified.
That would be like, very odd. All of a sudden, you walk through a door and you're back to being 12. You're like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Horrified. Well, not only do you go from a place like A, you've grown, and B, like you've grown, but also you've had authority. Like you've been royalty. You've had responsibilities. You might even had a lover, maybe multiple lovers, and all next thing you know, it's all ripped away from you. Because they probably lived in Narnia as long as or longer than they were alive at Earth. So they even let's say right in the middle. Let's say they lived about equal amount of time as Narnia as they did on Earth. You still ripped away everything they knew, and they wouldn't remember. If you would go back in there, unless there was some kind of magically download all the old information again. Like, do you remember what you were doing fucking 10 years ago? Like, exactly. Like, do you remember all the people, all the conversations you had? Someone had a conversation with you day one, and then next thing you know, you come back. It's 10 years later. You A, might not even remember that person anymore. B, you don't know even if you do, what conversation you were having, and like, it's all gone. And so you got to relearn everything. So I don't know. I always thought the ending of that book, where they came back and they went back to kids again, was just bullshit.
Probably what happened was they had all sorts of wild stories that the parents didn't believe in. All those kids got lobotomized in the sanatorium because of that.
Right.
Like, well, the children have gone insane. They're talking about these weird places through a wardrobe. Let's go carve out part of their brain. That's the true dark ending of that series.
I would be going back to the wardrobe every fucking day.
Yeah.
Like, I would just be like, no,
no, I don't want this shitty reality. Yeah, it kind of goes back to the Wizard of Oz. It's like, why would you go back to the Dust Bowl shithole that you came from?
Well, it's like World War II was still raging. Like, okay, you brought us back to pretty much when we came back here, but like, we got moved out here because the Nazis are bombing London, and that's all happening. So why did we come back here again?
Yeah, just check in and see how things are going. Maybe spread some of the wisdom you learned on the other side of the wardrobe. Like, I have come back with a message of peace. They bring peace. Get them. Actually, at the very end of the Ahsoka series, when Ezra stepped off the plane in the stormtrooper outfit, I kind of wanted them to like have all their guns pointed at him. And as soon as Ezra takes off the helmet, then be like, "Oh my God, it's Ezra! Fire!" Yeah. And just gun him down. They'd be like, we never liked that guy.
And then again, I don't know, maybe it was just me. Maybe I'll read more into it. But when they ran up they started aiming at him, and he's like, "Oh, Ezra," and it's all the people around him look like fucking morons. Like they're all like slack-jawed, like vacant look in their eyes. I'm like, is this still more a part of showing how the Republic was incompetent? Because it's working.
Yeah, and why did he leave his armor on when he got off the ship? Why didn't he just like take it off on the flight over?
Yeah, that was. I mean, for the reveal, but still.
Yeah, I mean, he could. Yeah, it's not like we're gonna sit there and be like, "Oh, this is weird." That's an actual real stormtrooper. Oh, I'm surprised it's Ezra. No, I mean, none of us were surprised by that twist, quote unquote.
Right, quote twist. Yeah, twist.
Yeah, quote unquote twist. Because as soon as you got off, you're like, "Oh, well, that's Ezra, obviously." I mean, yeah, they could have saved everybody a lot of trouble. Just like took his helmet off when he came off the plane.
If they thought it was Imperial, why didn't they blast him out of the sky? So they had to know something.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're just like, "Hey, our bay door is open. This Imperial fighter just flew on in. What's going on?" Somebody really dropped the ball on that. Somebody sitting on the radar was just off in the can. Or maybe Ezra was like talking to somebody like, hey, I got a great prank. Just let me land on here and I'll come out in a stormtrooper outfit. Everybody will love it. I promise.
Like Bill Murray in Zombieland.
And here's one thing. This is very pedantic and bugs me, but there's a few times during this season where like Ahsoka would yell something during like this huge firefight where there's like explosions going off everyone around her, and she would like say something to somebody at like speaking level, and they would somehow hear her. I think it was like one of the scenes where they're like riding on dogs being blasted by the Star Destroyer, and she's just like, "Hey, we got to make the ship over there in time," or something. It's just like she would never be able to hear you saying talking at that level.
Yeah, that reminds me of the end of what movie
Shazam?
was it? No.
Oh,
Oh god, I had it right. I had it. Not Speed. Not Jason Statham was in it.
Crank.
Yes, it was like where he had like the heart. He had to keep his heart rate above a certain thing. Anyway, he at the very end of that movie, he jumps out of a helicopter and he's falling, and he calls his girlfriend. And he has this like really heartfelt, leaves a really heartfelt message to her as he's falling, and then they cut to her answer machine. All you hear,
Ha! Okay, that's funny right there. Because
because of course it would. He's falling from an airplane.
yeah, right, all you're gonna hear is just. Yeah, I like little touches like that because when you're in the middle of a war and people are like talking at like just average speaking level, it's like, how are you hearing them over all this gunfire?
Yeah, you're not. You're not here.
Yeah, you're not. All right, so I think we've talked enough.
Yep, I think good. So yeah, thanks for listening. We were definitely enjoyed Ahsoka. I encourage you to do that. I also encourage you to go back and watch Clone Wars, and I guess you should watch Rebels too, and The Bad Batch. But I can't really push too much on those because I haven't seen A, all of Rebels, and B, all of Bad Batch. But Clone Wars is amazing, where you introduced Ahsoka. So I think it's really you really should watch Rebels to really fully understand the show. I haven't, although I've seen a chunk of it, and I still enjoyed it. But I do plan on going back and watching the rest of Rebels at some point.
Yeah, this kind of did pique my interest a little bit in rewatching Rebels. I started to, and then I don't know, I just got sidetracked as Sean tends to do.
But it's even better if you watch Clone Wars first.
Clone Wars before Rebels? Is that the order they go in?
Yeah, definitely. Because Rebels is when the Empire is up and about, and Clone Wars fills in between episode 2 and episode 3. So the very last episode of Clone Wars is Order 66.
So what you're saying is I need to watch episodes 1, 2, then Rebels, then 3, or not Rebels, but Clone Wars, then 3, then Rebels. That's a lot of TV watching.
Well, at the very least, I mean, you can watch I don't know, like, one of the reasons why people love Ahsoka is because of the Clone Wars. And you really do. She starts off fucking obnoxious to the point where, like, you're like, why is she even here? And after the first season, though, you're like, I'm in. Yeah, she's awesome.
Character development.
And then yes, her character development through that series was just amazing.
I still find the nickname Snips dumb.
Oh, it's dumb as hell. I hate that. I hate Snips. I hate it so much. He's like, what? Hey, Snips. I'm like, I forgot about Snips. That's so. And she called him Sky Guy, which thank God she didn't call him
Sky Guy.
He called her Snip. She called him Sky Guy. I'm like, boo! I'm yelling at Stevie scream, boo! That's so stupid.
Sky Guy and Snip sounds like just such a dumb cartoon, like a little kid cartoon. It's Sky Guy and Snips.
So I think I probably like when she thought. I mean, she still called him Sky Guy from time to time, but it was more just like when they were digging at each other. It wasn't like she was just calling, like she was just saying, she referred to him master and actually had respect for him. But every so often, if like they would do some playful banter, she would call him Sky Guy just to dig at him because he, that was it. I can respect that. But like as a steady nickname for him, no. Stop it. No one likes it.
Speaking of Sky Guys, why did those TIE fighters just like cover their face and scream when they got smashed into by that ship? Why didn't that ship's wings get damaged? That scene was kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, and they fixed that ship real fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was my thought, too. It was like, hey, they fixed that. I mean, that thing looked pretty much totaled, and I don't know. Was she like on a headset all the time with him being like, hey, this thing's almost fixed. You got about 30 seconds till I'm there. I mean, timing on there seemed pretty stupidly good.
I mean, they definitely have said before where, I mean, again, Mandalorian, the first season, his ship was like skeletalized, by the Jawas, and it was just him and his Ugnaught friend built the whole thing back up. He was space worthy. It seemed like a day. So apparently, it doesn't take very long to fix ships up.
Yeah, it's like the A-Team rules where they can turn their van into a tank in one episode and then turn it back into a van.
Right.
All with one welder in a barn.
And never mind just like getting it up and running, like getting it space worthy. Like that shit can't have any leaks.
Yeah,
so
right.
Better be
it's not like they're fixing up an old Dodge Dart to drive to the corner store. You know
right?
what I mean?
Like, well, we're not gonna drive this again. Let's go ahead and put brake fluid in there to drive.
Yeah,
we'll
right. Okay, top off all the fluids and check it when you fill up with gas.
Yeah.
Okay, now force push start me. Yeah, just force push real hard while I pop this clutch, and we'll see if this thing gets going. Cha-chunka.
Force push harder.
Yeah, force push harder. Okay, now that I'm rolling, run and jump in while we're going. I can't stop.
Jeez. Like the door open, 1 foot hanging out the door, trying to push to the ground.
Yep. Been there before.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It doesn't work well.
It does. It's that whole thing, though. It's that whole thing. Like, oh, I have a mattress on top of my car with my one hand. Like, I have it tied down, but I also have my hand on it.
Yeah,
so it's not going anywhere.
Yep, it's that hand that'll stop everything.
Yeah, Lord knows when the wind catches the bottom of it or rips it off, the rope will fail, but my hand.
Yeah, thank God you had your hand there, just kind of like lightly resting on it to just grab it at that 1 second.
Anyway, yep.
Intergalactic travel is similar to driving a Honda Civic with a mattress tied to the top.
Damn straight.
This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.